Welcome. I said that I would connect the particular provision of the Bill of Rights, the Fourth Amendment, to the structural protections of the Constitution, namely federalism and separation of powers. That's what we're going to talk about today.
The Baker Brief with law professor John Baker. Your weekly dispatch from the battlefield of ideas.
In this program, I want to explain the relationship between the structural provisions of the Constitution and how, when they are manipulated, you can effectively undermine particular provisions of the Bill of Rights. So we're going to be looking at two issues, federalism and separation of powers. They both play a role here. First, let's look at federalism.
Federalism is the system of dividing power in this country between different levels of government: the national level, the state level, and the local level. This division of power in our government is spelled out in the United States Constitution. It was created to strike a balance between a national government that could take care of matters that affect the whole country and state and local governments that can better carry out the wills and wishes of the people.
As I've already mentioned, the police powers are supposedly primarily in the states, and de facto they are, in the sense that 95% of all criminal cases are processed in state court, not in federal court. But still, the federal government, through so many crimes, is able to exercise police powers whenever it basically wishes. And that was certainly not part of the Constitution and is rather a product of the administrative state. Why? Police powers shape a community. Federalism involves different types of communities. As I say often to students, if you want a nice, quiet life, probably Iowa is a good place. But if you like a little more excitement, you might want to go to Vegas. They're different. They are governed differently. They have their own governments. They have their own laws. Prostitution is legal in parts of Nevada, but not in Iowa, as far as I know. They are different communities, and it's the police power that keeps them that way. Now we'll see there are limits on that because the police power at the local level can be abused. But let's go on to separation of powers.
The United States government is divided into three branches. Remember the parts we talked about earlier? The legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The legislative branch consists of Congress, which is divided into two chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The legislative branch's main role is to make laws. The executive branch is headed by the president, who is primarily responsible for making sure that the laws are being enforced. The judicial branch is represented at the highest level by the Supreme Court of the United States. The judicial branch is responsible for determining the meaning of the Constitution by interpreting how laws do or do not fit into it.
All three branches have some responsibility for the irresponsible growth of federal criminal law, but Congress has the primary responsibility and therefore the primary blame. All of this really begins with the progressives, as I'll explain in the next program. But what we're looking at is the fact that Congress keeps passing crimes, and it does so at the urging often of the Justice Department, which is part of the executive branch. And some presidents like to run on law and order. And so it seems like a natural fit. But again, more on that in the next program. But it's really then the courts that have, for many decades, been a problem. That is, these federal crimes are really not crimes, many of them. They're regulations that we've made criminal. They're extremely complicated. It's hard to know what is prohibited. Many of them eliminate the key element of crime, a mental element. They hold people strictly responsible for something that they may not even have known was wrong, because after all, there are too many crimes. But the courts should be striking these as vague and beyond the power of Congress. Congress has no general police power. It usually uses the hook of the Commerce Clause. More on that in the next program. Please join me.
To ensure your continued access to the Baker Brief, please note our additional channels listed below. And remember to like and subscribe using the bell icon.